Today, I want to just take a deeper dive into something that we've been talking about maybe the last 2 to 3 weeks. I've been mentioning the Agile Scrum framework or the 150K framework. This framework is so divine. And the reason why it's divine because you're able to apply this framework not only to the IT and tech career as an IT PM or a Scrum Master, but you can absolutely apply it to your life. And that's something I've done over the years. I think it's very important to remember that in order to be successful in life, the internal things that needs to be conquered, it requires a framework. It requires some type of pattern or cadence. And over a period of time, once you learn those things, it makes life easier. It does allow you to be more successful because you have structure. And I've been mentioning the Agile Scrum framework. I want to dive a little bit deeper into this framework today. I told you there's various components. You should know the components by now, since that's being a constant pitch of mine, because I want to make sure that you understand that you need something to get started. You can't just jump into a new career path without the basics. And these are indeed some of the most important basics that you can take with you and get your foot in the door to get started. So let's review, and I'm going to go over the framework holistically once again. So this is the framework that we've been talking about. And remember, with the framework has 5 different ceremonies. Those 5 ceremonies consist of, number 1, the daily scrum. Number 2, planning. Number 3, PBR. And the more we talk about this, the more we mention this, it becomes second nature. You remember what these components are, why they're important, and the order that they need to be in so that you're successful. And this is based on an environment called CI/CD. This is continuing integration, continuing development. We'll get to that point. Number 4 is going to be your review or a demo. And remember, PBR is an acronym. It's the acronym that stands for product, backlog, refinement. And the number 5 ceremony is your retro. This absolutely is a framework that's key to being successful. Now, this framework, as I go a little bit deeper, is based on a method of development or a methodology. That methodology is called Agile Scrum. You'll start seeing words that are synonymous across the page here. Daily Scrum, you see Scrum here. It's a method. It's a method that allows you to develop software at a faster pace. It allows you to build a cadence or iterations in terms of working to get software done and completed in a faster instance. Now, this framework, when it comes to software development, has all these pieces because we're building this software based on a cadence and a pattern. This cadence and pattern is not only based on increments of 2 to 4 weeks. We build the software in 2 to 4 week increments or iterations. They're called iterations. All I'm doing is going through the framework. We already know the 5 ceremonies that are associated with the framework. We've talked about the details of why you have 5. I just gave you new information. So 2 to 4 week iterations. It's our working box. It's our time box by which we need to develop software. And based on those 2 to 4 weeks, we touch every single one of these components. Every single one of them. It's built that way so that we are successful. So let's go a little bit further. You've seen the word Scrum here a couple of times. You may be saying to yourself, what in the world is Scrum? Let's break it down. Scrum. The orator and the originator of the Agile Scrum methodology took Scrum and simply pulled it from something that something that we all may remember or be familiar with, and that's the sport rugby. Now, if you're familiar with the sport rugby, rugby is where you have a whole bunch of chaos. You have men or women running up and down a field. They have a ball on a pitch or a soccer field, and they're trying to get from point A to point B. This is going to make sense, going from point A to point B. But the scrum happens when the ball is free. Everybody's fighting for the ball, and once one person gets the ball on that team, you see the team come together and they start to organize. That's called a scrum. We're scrumming. We're fighting for position. Such is this method of software development. It does not require all the repetitive waterfall signatures or approvals from management anymore. This is a self-organizing software development process that allows you or us as a team to simply grab information as it's given from the purse holders or leadership or the owners of the application, and we simply come together as a team and we make it happen. We build new software based on the requirements given, and it's not a slow process. It's actually a faster, repetitious process that allows us to give more that allows us to give more information to the client based on our 2 to 4 week time box and our increments and iterations. So just to recap, we talked about a $150,000 framework. This framework, in terms of the number, is just an association. This doesn't guarantee anything. We're not talking about you learning this framework and you immediately make $150. That's not what this is. This 150K framework allows you to move into jobs and career paths that start on average here. That's what the 150K stands for. Based on the framework, 5 ceremonies. These are the 5 ceremonies. We've talked about the iterations in terms of 2 weeks, between 2 to 4 weeks time box to give you that time to develop the software. And then we talked about the meaning of Scrum. What does Scrum mean? Scrum means we develop software before it's even organized. We start self-forming, self-norming as a team to make it happen. And this is all from the word rugby. This idea came from rugby. So that's our initial components and pieces to the framework, the Agile Scrum framework. What I want to do for you is break it down just a little bit more. Today, let's talk about the daily Scrum. What does the ceremony daily Scrum mean? What happens in the daily Scrum? And how do I use this to develop software? So the daily Scrum. The daily Scrum is a daily occurrence, such as the name states, where as a team, I'll say me, maybe even you, because you might want to be a project manager. You might want to be an IT project manager or consultant, even a Scrum master. You'll lead these ceremonies. Number 1, daily Scrum. All you do in this ceremony is ask 3 questions as a leader. There's 3 questions asked every single day to every person. Now, the cool thing about this ceremony is you only have 15 minutes to get through the ceremony every day. Now, this doesn't always happen, but as you become a master and a student of the ceremony, you'll make sure you stay within the 15 minutes. And here's the reason why. You only have 15 minutes for this because you want to make sure that your team has a full day to build software based on the specifications and the requirements that you've been given. If you're in meetings all day and you go past 15 minutes, you're taking time away from your developers actually implementing code. So that's one of the reasons why we keep this at a 15-minute time box. So as we continue, I told you there's 3 questions that are asked every day in a daily Scrum by the leaders. which are your IT project managers, scrum masters, or it can be anybody on the team that's qualified to do this. So here are the three questions. Number one is, what did you do yesterday? Number two, what will you do today? And number three, do you have any impediments? Out of all three of these questions, can you guess which one is the most important? And I'm sure you already know in your head, but I'm going to show you what one of the most important ones is. One of the most important questions is impediments. Do you have any impediments? It's going to put a heart here. Well, that's a horrible heart. Let's see if we can make that a little bit cleaner. Let's see. Oh, shoot. Let's see. Oh, that's a little bit better. But do you have any impediments? Is the most important question. So I'm going to break down the three questions and why they're asked and how they kind of go. So if we're role playing, me being the Scrum Master or the IT product manager, I'll ask you, being a consultant on the development team, hey, so what did you do yesterday? And your response may be, so yesterday I developed X, Y, and Z code. It's been checked in and it's been reviewed by my coworker. And basically, we're going to check everything into the QA team, which is the testing team, to make sure that we met all the specifications. The second question will be from the project manager, what are you going to do today? Well, I'm going to start on the next user story, or I'm going to start on the next set of requirements and start implementing those so that we stay in our time box and meet our prioritization. Remember that time box for each iteration, is 2 to 4 weeks. You have to build everything in those 2 to 4 weeks. So let's do this. Let's go back. I'll have a quick recap and then we'll keep going. So we were talking about the daily scrum. The daily scrum is the very first ceremony. Out of the 5, this is the first ceremony. There's 3 questions that are asked every single day. That first question is, what did you do yesterday? Second question, what will you do today? And that last question, the most important one, is do you have any impediments? And like I've stated, this is absolutely hands down the most important question. So we didn't talk about how this question would be discussed in terms of a team if you do have impediments. So that project manager may ask, hey, do you have any impediments? The word impediment, so it can mean a variety of things. When you first think of the word impediment, it could be from a healthcare standpoint. That is absolutely correct. If a person has an impediment, they have an issue, they have a problem, they have a hindrance. Absolutely true. In IT and tech, so many different fields, they correlate, they work together. If you have an impediment from an IT standpoint, guess what? We're asking, do you have any problems? Do you have any issues or problems that will hold you from finishing everything that we committed to? Because I just stated, as another reminder, we only have 2 to 4 weeks to get work done based on the sprints that we're working in. So to recap, this is the number one ceremony for the 150K framework, the Agile Scrum framework. There's 3 questions asked every single day. This will never change every single day. The questions are asked by your IT project managers, your scrum masters, your IT consultants, that may be leads, or anyone that's qualified to ask these questions. The three questions are: what did you do yesterday? What will you do today? And the most important one, do you have any impediments? It is your job as a leader to make sure that you resolve these every single day. I don't care what the problems are. I don't care what your workload looks like. You have to resolve teams, issues, problems, impediments. Because if you don't solve these, then these two pieces of the ceremony, they will not get done. You will never complete the work, and you will not meet the 2 to 4 week time frame based on the prioritization that you have. So that's why it's so important. Make sure you fix all the issues so that as a team, your team's able to go ahead and develop software. Because, and we're going to break down some of the other ceremonies later, if you do not resolve these impediments, I think I mentioned it as number 4 ceremony, you will never be able to have a demo or a review for the leadership. You cannot demo something if it's not fixed or if it's not working properly. If it's not fixed or working properly, that means you have impediments. You have these issues that have to be resolved first. And in order to do that, it's going to require resolution. So, to wrap up today's lessons on the 5 ceremonies, we've gone through all those. We talked about the daily scrum. I went more in depth about the daily scrum. 3 questions asked every day. You have the questions now. You understand, most importantly, the meaning of impediments and what has to happen in terms of resolve. If you do not resolve those impediments, you cannot have a demo or review, which is number 4, the number 4 ceremony, which we'll get to that. And I want to break that down for you too as well. But this is the daily scrum. One piece to the bigger puzzle for the framework in Agile Scrum. Like, share, give this to all your friends. Let's encourage each other to pursue what we really desire. And that's longevity in life. That's the ability to take care of personal issues as well as career issues, because we now understand that everything requires a framework. Once you figure out a framework that works for you, whether it's personal, whether it's through IT or tech, you're able to move forward into whatever that next thing or the next realm of your life should be and you want it to be. I'll see y'all in the next video. Remember the Agile Scrum framework. Remember all its components, 5 ceremonies. We talked about the daily Scrum today. We'll break these down even further. I'll see y'all.